Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Out of the Box with Christine. I am your host, Christine Blasdale, and you are so lucky that you tuned in today because we have, well, first of all, I have one of my favorite people on the whole planet joining us, but we're going to be talking about our own psychic abilities with someone who is, I respect her so much, the work that she has done. I feel I have that goosebump producing system that when I feel goosebumps, I know that it's correct. I know that it's, divine. Well, Lou George is one of those people that have created lots of goosebumps when she's spoken, when she's done her Facebook Lives, and she's joining us today, our very own psychic detective, Lou George. How you doing, Lou?
Oh, what an intro. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Well, it's great to have you back because I had you on quite a while ago, I think, right?
Yeah.
Many moons ago, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
So just to jump right in, why don't you let our listeners and our viewers also know a little bit about your abilities. I know that there are some folk who see things, hear things. There's audio clarion. I'm such a novice at this. Tell our listeners a little bit about what it is that you do and how that came to be.
Okay, fine. So if we're talking about our faculties, then I'm predominantly clairvoyant, which means I see visions unfolding. I see spirit as if kind of like a movie.
Okay.
Like a movie playing. I am clairaudient, so I have the ability to hear what they're saying. I'm able to channel information, so that's connecting to source, or what some people may call God. Plug straight into source and bring down information, prophecy.
So when did you discover that you had these abilities? Were you a child? Was it later in life?
I'd had experiences as a child, but we're not taught that we're psychic. So what tends to happen with children is that it can be a scary experience, and so oftentimes we have parents that will say it's just your imagination or it was a bad dream. That you're just imagining this. And so we discredit and we discount children's experiences. And I think it's so important that we don't do that. We need to try and normalize spirit communication and psychic experiences, because of course they're all experiences that every one of us is having to different degrees, how much we will allow them. And I think to empower a child in letting them know that they're in control of the experience and how they can control it by teaching them, giving them tools, it can be a beautiful thing.
And isn't it interesting that we discount it, especially young children who are so close to source, right? When you're born, you're the closest to source, and you have all these amazing abilities, and then society, socioeconomic situations, the zeitgeist of the era of the time, kind of strips you away from that and says, and then there's some religious, my God, now we're in a time where it's a little bit more acceptable. But can you imagine? Back in the day, we'd get burned at the stake, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it just depends on where you're from.
I think with children, like you said, there's no one closer to source. Fresh out of the womb, fresh from that side of heaven onto the earth plane. And so oftentimes you'll see babies babbling and talking to what appears to be nothing, right? Babies remembering past life experiences, toddlers who haven't got earthly knowledge and don't watch the news and read the papers and are privy to conversations about worldly events, but they're able to document in a factual way. There's a lot of fear with adults, because for some people it can be really creepy to hear a kid talking and behaving in this way. So we're responsible for a lot of the conditioning that we do to our children. And then, of course, like you said, society, vaccines, our diets, all these things are polluting that brand new, fresh pineal gland. And so consequently, we're shutting down that child's psychic abilities.
When you say with the pineal gland, most people don't even know what that is, don't even know that we have it, don't
Yeah.
haven't a clue. Um, Talk about that from your knowledge. What is the pineal gland, and what's the important aspect of that?
Right, okay, so the pineal gland is literally a gland, an organ within our heads.
Right here?
Yeah, right about here, a little bit
Uh-huh.
kind of in the center.
Okay.
Got about this height in the center. And it is what we call the third eye. It is literally like an eye. It has rods and cones like our physical eyes. And it is how we perceive psychic phenomena. So it is with the third eye that we see spirit, not the naked eye.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
No, and I have heard, I don't know, I don't have the scientific background for this, but I've also heard that there are things that that we do, that we ingest, that can also diminish the strength of that pineal gland, right?
Yeah, it becomes calcified through a number of things. But if we're talking about vaccines, mercury, heavy metals particularly, will calcify the pineal gland and so lessen its abilities, its functionality. What we're ingesting in our diets, especially if you're a meat eater, not going off on the meat eaters here, but they particularly are eating, well, you've got the issue of them eating an animal. So they're ingesting all the fear, vibration, and the trauma of that animal. And on top of that, whatever hormones that animal has been injected with for longevity of their meat. So we're putting all these, and the sugars, aspartame, all these things that we're putting in our bodies, chemicals being sprayed in the air,
Yes.
chemicals that we use around the house. And then
there's also that thing that millions and millions of Americans do every day, brushing their teeth. And
fluoride, yeah.
the fluoride has had, that's what I have heard as well, that the fluoride has a way of calcifying that, sort of covering up that.
100%, which is why they offer the fluoridation of your children's teeth in schools here. I don't know if they do it over there in the States.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And putting it in water. They put it in infant water.
Yeah. We don't need it. We absolutely don't need it. It's toxic to us. But yes, that all has an effect on the pineal gland, and that's exactly why they do it, because you're giving it to children of school age. You're targeting specifically school age children, infants, as you're putting them in this system of programming, of school programming.
Right.
You're making it so that whole process is making pliable children who are easier to control.
Right.
They don't want free thinkers, people who think out of the box. They want conditioned little sheep.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, when you have that ability to tap into whatever, if you call it love, God, light, the universe, when you have that ability to tap into that, it changes your perspective on life. It changes your perspective on what you should be doing, how you should be treating others, because as you know, we're all connected, right? We're all one. Mm-hmm. We literally are connected. I've got little bits of me that are little, bits of you, and the trees are little bits of us as well, and it separates us from that, which is one of the biggest tragedies of that. It separates.
Well, it's the worst of all, but I think the primary purpose is to condition in such a way that we have children who are being programmed to be workers, to serve, because when you're connected to source, that is when you fall into your life's purpose. And like you said, the realization of, I am she, he is me, we are one. So the school system is not there to and the fluoridization and all of that goes with it, the vaccinations, is not there to create children to be connected to source. It's deliberately trying to come against that. It wants workers. It wants a herd, suppressing the free thinkers, because as you said, if you're connected to source, you fully understand and start to see what your path is and what your purpose in this life is. And so everybody would be self-employed. Everybody would be living fulfilling lives, serving other
And there would be
people.
no more wars, because why
No.
would you? Yeah. When you are cut off from source, it's much easier to say, that's a bad guy, that's the enemy, go kill. And they do. I mean, look at, there's cemeteries full of dead, servicemen and women based on the fact that they were told that that was the enemy. They're bad.
Right.
The Vietnam War, which was one of the biggest scams this world has ever seen, is the amount of devastation from that war alone. And then what?
Right.
Like 40 years later, McNamara said, "Oh, we got it wrong. Oops, didn't need to happen."
Yeah, and so leading in with that, the propaganda that the children are given in the school system, the history books are being rewritten. And so if we had children with those beautiful, fresh, unpolluted third eyes, they would question all the material that they're given. They would question history. They would question why these things have happened,
Yeah.
And so that's not the plan. That's not the plan, to have children thinking in this free-minded way.
Well, on Out of the Box radio, we're going to be telling parents and soon to be parents to think outside of the box when it comes to that. And, and really, cause I love the thing that you do. Well, you're brilliant. I mean, you're so connected, and we're going to get into some of the maybe cold case files, and also some of the people who have maybe transitioned that we've been told they transitioned this way, but we know that when someone is taken off of this planet and it is a lie, they, at an opportunity where there's a really pure source for communication, they will come and talk to us and say, that ain't right.
Yeah.
I didn't kill myself.
Right, very much so. And it's important to question that official narrative.
Exactly. But isn't it interesting as a society, we don't, well, because we want to trust daddy, right?
Yeah.
And the government is daddy.
Right. And it's accumulative of all the things that we've just discussed. From birth, we're getting stuck with how many vaccinations immediately?
Way more than when I was a child. Yeah.
Yeah. Then the schooling system.
Yes.
And so it continues. Our parents' conditioning, then what we're hearing on the news.
And then the bombardment as well from the RF and EMF frequencies that we have.
Oh, wow. Wow, yeah.
We have something that's coming down the pike, and it's already being implemented in several places, which is 5G, which is definitely not a step from 4G to 5G, just like a little bit more power. We're talking about massive interruption of our electrical systems, and Lord knows what those systems will do. And that's why also I want to encourage people to tap into their own psychic abilities and into their own intuition, and let that be their guide more than what's coming down the pike. And I don't like to put fear out. I don't like to be a fear.
No.
But it's being
totally
aware.
Understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awareness and enabling, empowering people to be able to make those decisions for themselves, to feel the truth behind every circumstance. And I went to see David Icke speak, I think it was last year, in Bristol. Yeah, it was amazing. And he spoke quite at length about 5G and how it had been rolled out in a certain town in the UK. I can't remember where he had said it was specifically, but that, the effects that it had on the neighborhood. I think it was literally just one neighborhood, but you were having women with, pregnant women with deformed children, stillbirths, cancer spiking, just awful effects from a really short period of being exposed to this 5G.
And we had David Icke on as well on Out of the Box several years ago. I love the work that he does, because he's actually very courageous to come out, in high profile, because we know sometimes it can be dangerous to speak out. We know that a lot of our great, wonderful people that have graced this earth, Martin Luther King Jr., people that have really wanted to do a change, their life was cut short because they were seen as a threat to this machine of
Yeah.
control and fear, right? He was
Yeah.
preaching love, and he got in big trouble when he was talking about the Vietnam War and, you know, coming from a place of love. And that was just too threatening to the powers that be. So in this show, what I would like to do, because you are, like I said, you're just absolutely amazing in this psychic detective work that you do. Why don't you tell our listeners and our viewers about some of the cases that you have been looking into that maybe Source has kind of pushed you into? What's happening right now? What's hot right now on your radar?
Do you know, there's so much. I don't think, well, let's start with Prince. We've got Prince now, who was murdered almost 4 years ago, 4 years in April.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, time flies, huh? And I think that's where my work started going in this direction of murder cases and corruption within the industry, and just particularly challenging official narratives, you know? So it started with Prince and getting to, I know you've had Abigail Noel on the show many times, so I don't think I need to go into the Prince story, do I? Or
oh no, but we can refresh people, just a bit of a refresher. Yeah,
real refresh. Okay, and perhaps I'll tell it from my perspective then, is that and how I came to meet you and Ab and everybody. So so 4 years ago, I am teaching psychic development, and I heard, because I don't watch the news or read the paper or something like that, but of course social media,
right,
my feed was full of Princes died, right? And it was a huge shock, as I imagine it was to most people. Now Prince wasn't on my radar since I was a teenager. I'm 40 this year, but I hadn't thought of Prince in all these years. So I never followed him. I had one album, I think. Well, in fact, it was my brother's. He used to pinch it from his bedroom. So wasn't a mega fan of Prince. And I think it's important to state that, simply because even though I've come to really love and appreciate, and I'm just adore him now, I think it's important to mention that, because when you get celebrities transitioning, and especially in these kinds of circumstances, and you get a lot of fans who become really emphatic about it and immersed in a story, that wasn't me. So I think that's the purpose of me telling you that I wasn't a fan.
Same here. Yeah, same
right
here.
Fantastic, so you get it. So I became all consumed with Prince, because immediately it felt wrong. It felt absolutely wrong. Stories were coming out saying, you know, he was so promiscuous that, you know, he'd contracted AIDS, HIV and AIDS. And I was like, that's wrong. No, he didn't. And then it would be drug overdose. And I was like, nah. But at that time, I had so much going on in my life, and this was new, that I would be connecting with a celebrity, right? I hadn't had this experience. And when I'd had my formal training for psychic development, my teacher was very old school, and she, bless her, had said, somebody in class had asked, well, could you connect with Elvis? Could you channel Elvis? And she said, from a limited perspective, her own experience, I guess, no, you couldn't. Unless you knew Elvis in the physical, or you were sitting with a member of his family, you wouldn't be able to bring him through. So I was then conditioned to behave and believe that way.
Right.
Until it happened spontaneously. And I think it had to happen with someone like Prince for me to know that I wasn't fangirling and obsessing over someone.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And that's exactly what happened. I became all consumed, because it felt like a huge loss, a huge shock, and the stories weren't right. They just weren't right.
Right.
None of it made sense. So my bullshit detector was going off. So at that time I was mega busy. I was actually learning to drive and about to do my driving test. I'm late in life learning to drive. So I was like, please, he was bugging me, right? He was on my ass, really bugging me. I would be out on a driving lesson now, preparing for tests, and a little red Corvette would pull in front of me. And I don't think, right? And I'm in the UK. I don't think I've ever seen a red Corvette in my life.
No.
It was just crazy. So I was like, right, what do you want? Because you harassing me, you bothering me, what do you want? And I put everything down that I was doing, because I thought, unless I connect with this guy and just listen to what he has to say, he can leave me alone, and it's stressing me out.
Right.
And as soon as I did that, the floodgates opened, and he started just communicating everything that had happened, how he was murdered, who was involved, how it happened, why it happened. And it was just the most bizarre story. And so just to quickly, not to go through it all, because I do believe Abigail's covered that so very much, that Prince's inner circle was infiltrated, and Prince was poisoned via his drink, his fresh juice drink that he'd consumed that night, for the purposes of ownership of his music rights.
Which was, let's not gloss over that, right? Because
right.
he had finally taken back his, because that was the whole thing. The artist formerly known as Prince, basically, is it Sony who was the record label that he was signed with?
Warner Brothers.
Warner Brothers. But what happened is that he had finally had control of his music, right?
Artistry, yeah.
Of his artistry, which is huge in the music industry. It's just because they're just slimy little dogs, and no disrespect to dogs at all, but
No.
he had finally regained ownership of his music that he was creating, right? And we're talking, it was worth quite a bit of money, like hundreds of millions of dollars.
Oh yeah, they had $1 billion. Warner Brothers had $1 billion life insurance policy on him.
Oh no!
So the moment he's
no. Anytime anybody wants to take $1 million or $1 billion life insurance policy on me, I'm like, hell no. So if I die, if I die, you get $1 billion.
Right.
Then you got a target on your back the rest of your life.
Yeah.
No, and this was not talked about at all. $1 billion.
So the people don't realize it. It's only people who become very passionate about the case that will look into it and investigate and look at the transcripts, the interviews, who's investigated, what they have to say. Because most people will accept the story that this guy was an opioid addict. Oh, let me back up. That was the first thing I could hear him saying when I started reading the newspaper, not reading newspapers, forgive me, the news feed on Facebook, and it was saying suspected drug overdose and such. He kept saying, and the AIDS thing, he kept saying to me, I'm clean. It started with the AIDS thing, and I said, so you haven't got AIDS? And he kept on, I'm clean. So I was thinking it was like disease, that he was referring to disease, I'm clean from any disease. But it was both. Yeah. He had no disease in the body, no addiction in the body.
He's extremely healthy, as a matter of fact, right?
Oh,
he was a bit of a health nut, not a health nut, but yeah, he was
very conscious
about what he consumed. And he had a very intense schedule, so that would also demand that as well. But then he had an inner circle that probably got a very large payout.
Yeah.
As Abigail Noel likes to say, the golden parachute, right?
Yes, she does. Yeah.
So does Prince, does he still communicate with you from time to time? I'm feeling his energy right now. I'm here and I'm feeling his energy, and he's actually really super stoked. He's happy that we're talking about this.
Yeah. Well, Prince changed my life in so many ways, and my outlook. And so I remember saying to him back 4 years ago, don't ever leave me. Just don't ever leave. And that wasn't a fear thing, but I just can't imagine not speaking to him every day, not feeling him, not having his guidance and his support. Because I do work with him every day. Not as extensively now, because I'm not working the case anymore.
Correct. Right.
I've distanced a little bit from that. But just in my personal life, he's like a friend. He's a guide, a mentor, and an inspiration. He inspires me to want to be cleaner. Be more artistic, be more creative, be braver and bolder. So
I envision him as an ascended master.
He totally is.
Yeah. A little bit more hipper and relatable than Jesus, but
definitely he wouldn't wear those sandals.
Hell no. Or those robes. No.
Oh, he's got the occasional robe.
So let's talk about others that have communicated with. We had also mentioned before this actual recording of the show. You had said that Whitney Houston what happened? What happened? Did she?
Right. Oh, Whitney wants the mic. Whitney wants the mic back.
Yes.
Back on, when did we connect? I think it was Friday, and we said we'd hook up today and have a chat. And I said, okay, because I knew I was going out over the weekend. I said to you, let me open the door tonight then and see who wants to come through, because I'll have no time to prepare. So as I left you, I opened the door, but I felt, and so I had people like, I had Bob Marley coming through. I was like, oh, okay. But then my logic brain was telling me it's because I'm going to a reggae place tomorrow. I was thinking I'm pulling for that information. I felt it didn't feel like it was like just flowing. And so I had many people coming through, but like I said, I felt I was working for it. So what I did was I said, oh, bugger it, I'm going to bed. I got to go to bed. And if you want my attention, you just come and get me now I was asleep. And I lay down, and literally as soon as I closed my eyes, I got just one snapshot of the crime scene of Whitney Houston's murder, right? But it was something that I hadn't seen before, because I haven't worked this case in a very long time. So it's not something that I would have chosen to speak about, because I felt like I have to be fresh now. So I've had to say to her today, if you want me to talk about this, because she's been persistent, I've had to say, if you want me to talk about it, you need to speak through me then, because
I need something.
Yeah, I'm not really up to speed on this anymore. So, and the scene that I had, that snapshot that I had, was specifically of her face being put down into the tub.
Yeah.
So she's standing outside of it, and from behind, her hair is pulled and she's put under. God bless her. I know that's horrible. That's awful. And I had never seen that before. So I saw that, and I literally went straight to sleep. They kind of knock you out so that I feel, it's my understanding, that it's so that they can attune you as you're sleeping and kind of drop messages down. Went on with my day yesterday out with my friends, and she came up again. And I said to the girls, I think I need to speak about Whitney. And when I came home in the evening, I posted a picture on Facebook of our day out, and straight away there's links about Whitney. There's friends posting videos of just her songs, her music, things like that. And I'm like, all right, I got you.
Okay, right. Right.
Yeah. But what's really weird is that, and I'll try and keep this short because it's a bit of a personal story, but months before Whitney passed, maybe 3 months before, my mum had phoned me, and she said to me, oh my God, isn't it terrible? She was reeling, right? Whitney's dead. I'm like, what are you talking about? Whitney Houston said, I've just seen it on the news, and she's describing what she's seen now. You know, that scene in The Bodyguard when Whitney's just looking glorious, and she's got all that, like, that dress just flowing, and she's, I think it's I Want to Run Into You, that song. She just looks like an angel. She said, I've just seen all on the news. She's been found in a hotel. She's drowned in the bath, right? I'm like, she's not dead, Mum. My mother had got in from work in the middle of the day, and she'd laid on the sofa and had a nap. But she left the body, she went out onto the astral.
Right.
And so she was able to witness this event beforehand. Wow. Right? But she
Before
didn't know that. Yeah, she
Right.
didn't know that. She truly felt that she was laying on the sofa just relaxing and watching the telly, and that it came up on the news. Okay? So after telling me, she was like, she is, so I've just seen it all. She was insistent. So then after me saying, no, I haven't heard anything, she goes on to her customers, her clients, and she's telling everybody that she comes across about Whitney, and everybody's pulling up Sky News and it's not there. And so my mother now is back on the phone to me saying, I think I've had a stroke or something, because I'm like, yeah, because also she felt like she had to walk up a customer's stairs, and she felt like she was walking sideways like a crab. Now that is not being realigned back in the body. When you've left and gone out on the astral, when you're not grounded, you feel woozy and just not click back in, which is why she was stumbling. But to her, she thought that she had some kind of like aneurysm or something. It's crazy. So I'll wrap this up by saying I'd forgotten all about that. Oh yes, so fast forward 3 months after my mother telling me this story, what happens? Whitney dies on my mother's birthday, February the 11th.
Wow.
Okay. When was my mama's birthday? February 11th, this week. this week, which explains
Yeah.
why Whitney would be more forthcoming, that
Yeah.
energy, because so many people, the consciousness would be focused upon her, because it's like 8 years since her transition this week. There's so much concentrated focus on her and emotion for her that it summons the energy and the essence of her. But I'd forgotten about that.
And knowing that you were going to be doing this and we were going to be recording this and getting this out, through YouTube and iTunes and Spotify and everything like that. She also took that as an opportunity to say, hey, hello.
Oh yeah. She's very vocal.
So let's honor her. Let's honor Whitney Houston.
Mm-hmm.
And let's allow her to, whatever you're getting right now or what you've gotten before, because you had mentioned briefly that you did actually see someone holding the back of her head and pushing her, forcibly putting there. But there's more to it, and there's probably something else that she would like to say. So let's open that up, if you don't mind. And if we need a little silence for a while, that's fine. Don't worry about that. But
she's already here. She's been here since Friday night. So and she's ready to go. It's me trying to articulate, because my logic brain likes to try and categorize all the different things, because this is such a huge story. It's bigger than just the events of that day. It's all the key players involved. It's a big deal. So I'm just asking that she assist me in articulating it as best we can.
Okay. Yeah.
Right here. So on the 11th of February 2012, we received news that Whitney was found dead in the Beverly Hilton in California, 3:55 p.m. And it's the eve of Clive Davis's annual Grammys pre-party. They do reveal that the cause of death appears to be accidental drowning, but law enforcement issue a statement saying that they don't suspect criminal activity, and this is where Whitney disagrees, very much so. So she takes me to a scene. I can see her in her room. She shows me it feels like a week. Feels like she was there maybe 5 days a week, staying at the hotel in preparation for the Grammys and this pre-Grammys party. And of course, she's out in Beverly Hills, and she's going to some parties and she's enjoying, she's hanging out. But, and this is something that she was really drawing my attention to, is she got slammed in the press at that time for looking bloated and looking drunk in clubs and her behavior and things like that, right? But what she's saying to me is that week specifically, she was very much taking care of herself. She did drink some, right? Yeah. And she still liked to smoke.
Yeah.
But she wasn't doing any hard drugs. And we're led to believe differently. And the autopsy says differently, but we'll get to that. And and I think she wants to specify that particularly because it's shameful how we discredit someone and how we shame them in their death because they've had a history of substance abuse and problems, how we feel it's okay to use that as a cause of death, as a reason when it's not, to get away with murder, to cover up foul play. And more so because she was particularly focused in the run-up to that and at her stay in the Beverly Hilton on being clean, right? She was training, she was working out, she wanted to get in shape because she had just done that tour, which she should never have done. Again, trying not to bounce over there, but that's pressure for money because her family are all getting fed. Her family were all Team Whitney on payroll, and that's pressure. When we've got this woman who had lost 99% of her vocal ability. She could barely speak. But yeah, we're going to put her on a world tour because that's where the money is. in putting bums on seats, ticket sales and merchandise. And she was not a well girl. She wasn't physically or emotionally stable enough at that point to go and be worked the way she was. And then, of course, on top of that, the reception that she received, she was slated. And that is heartbreaking. If you go on and you watch any of the final videos of Whitney's performances, oh my God, she's really trying, you know, and she was always just a beautiful performer, but that voice had gone. And people were walking out of her shows, and she was being slated in the press, and it was just really pitiful. And I think if I were there, what would I have done if I'd have ever been lucky enough to see her, even in that state? Would I have walked out? No, I wouldn't have. I would have sung it with her. I'd have sung it with her and encouraged this woman. You know what I mean? Because
we know all the songs, exactly.
Right.
They're in her DNA, yeah.
And she's up there and she's doing her best and she's struggling. How can you walk out on someone like that or slate them for it? I don't know. Anyway, I got off on that one, but she was really trying now to come back from that, because that was the comeback, and she'd flopped because she wasn't physically able. So now this is why it's important that she was being very conscious about her health, and she was trying to get fit, and she's training and she's swimming and she's working out. She's trying to get in shape and be strong so that she can do these things. So where do I want to go with that? I'm asking. Right, so she shows me the day of her murder. Now she's in a suite, she's on the bed, she's in a robe, white, I think it's a hotel robe. And she's barefoot. And I'm saying these silly details because I'm just saying exactly what I can see. I can see her little tootsies and they're crossed. And she's wiggling out, and she's on the phone, she's having a little smoke, she's got music playing, it's gospel music. And she is, aware. There is a sense of peace, right? There's a sense of calmness and acceptance and preparation, because now she is aware that there's a hit on her. Because the night before, so on February the 10th, there was the attempted assassination of Bobby Christina, Whitney's daughter. Okay, so what I see is that the floor that they're on in the Beverly Hilton is not just a room that Whitney's got, or a suite. It's like, I don't know whether she's got the whole floor, but at least the majority, and they're all Team Whitney. But there's some snakes residing on that floor, who she believes, are her team, are her crew. I feel that, right, so I'm going to say that Bobby Christina's room is next door to Whitney's. If it's not next door, then it's directly opposite. So right next door. And Bobby Christina had been drugged the night before. And now we all know, again, Bobby Christina, bless her, had problems with substance abuse. Right. But and this is why it's such an easy thing to do to someone and it not be questioned. Bobby Christina had been in rehab. She wasn't using at that time. She had been drugged, and it's in a drink, which is, again, mirroring the Prince case.
Correct.
It's in a drink. She loses consciousness. She wakes up in the tub. They thought that she would drown by placing her in the tub, but she wakes up. She doesn't know what the hell is going on and what's happened to her, which, of course, she shares that with Whitney and amongst Team Whitney. So now the purpose of doing that to Bobby Christina was to tip Whitney over the edge, because if she lost her daughter to supposed overdose and drowning, there would be nothing left to live for. Absolutely nothing that she would want to stay on this planet for anymore. And so what easier way to kill an artist than to give them the tools to do it themselves? Give them that nudge to do it. But they were unsuccessful with Bobby Christina that night. So of course now Whitney is understanding of what's going
Knows
on.
that something's going on, right?
Yeah, because that's the night before. But yeah, it's a really strange, because she seems quite serene in this scene of the suite as she's on that bed, the music's on, she's having a smoke. It's like an acceptance. It's like, well, there ain't nothing I'm going to be able to do about it. It's not that she's given up, because she's a fighter. She's feisty, fiery, but I don't know. It's like a strange calm. Maybe it's shock. I don't know whether the body's way of dealing with things.
But she knows it's coming.
She knows it's coming. Now she's on her own. She's on her own. She's reading the Bible. That's what I want to mention as well, is that in this time period, in the weeks running up to it as well, like Whitney's come back, but specifically this week at the Beverly Hilton, it's like she's having an awakening. She'd always been very spiritual, very connected to God, typically religious, but it was as if, and I'm not sure whether it's because she was maintaining it in a rehab program at the time, so she was clean and she was taking care of her body, so of course your own natural vibration elevates and you become more psychic just in the act of that.
Right.
That she was becoming very clear, and she had an awakening experience, a spiritual experience, where she started to determine who the infiltrators were in our circle, and she realized she was being played. Oh, I got chills now all down my right side. And it was incredible shock, because they were people that she felt it was disappointment, because she felt she'd invited them in. Do you see? There's one. Are we naming names tonight, or are we?
Whatever you like, whatever she wants.
Yeah, say it. Okay, so we have Ray J, who he's not so big over here. Brandy's brother. He's known as Brandy's brother. He's not so big over here. He did a stint in Celebrity Big Brother, and he spoke a little bit about Whitney, but it was to say, I'm not really going to say anything. And my biggest regret is that I wasn't there. And he gave all this spiel. Now that's bullshit, because there's some real trickery involved with Ray J. She feels that she invited him in. He says they were just friends. They weren't. They were having a romantic relationship on and off for a number of years. He's quite a bit younger, but whatever, she was beautiful, powerful woman. So people would perhaps question why someone like Ray J would want to infiltrate. Well, first things, because he has some minor success of his own, right? Some notoriety of his own.
But no Whitney Houston success.
Not Whitney money, baby. So, and that, I think, living under his sister Brandy's shadow forever, always known as Brandy's brother, it's demasculating. And he wanted something for himself. Now, he wasn't interested in Whitney in the way that he was portraying that he was, and he was having an intimate relationship with her, but that was to manipulate, to infiltrate the circle. And going back to golden parachutes, there's a financial incentive to be in there. Now, sorry, were you?
That was my question that's been buzzing and burning is how much? So was Whitney Houston, and her catalog of hits is massive, right?
Oh yeah.
Who was she signed with?
She was signed with Arista, which is Clive Davis. Clive signed her when she was, I think, 19 years old. There was something I wanted to say about Clive. What do I want to say about him? Fast forward into Whitney's career, years down the line, and she re-signed. She always stayed with Clive, but she re-signed a new contract with Arista in about 2001, so 10 years prior to her passing. And the deal was for $100 million, right? Which at the time, and maybe still, is one of the biggest ever record contracts ever signed.
Right.
On the understanding that she would release 6 albums. I'm not sure that she fulfilled that. I know she did some, but they were slated as flops. So Clive Davis' net worth is estimated at $850 million. And you've got his highest paid artist at 100 million. Just think of that. Why are you paying an artist 100 million when you're earning 850? How can that be right for managing somebody? I just don't understand the equality there and the fairness in this whole game. But yes, it is a game. So I wrote something down actually. Let me grab it about Clive Davis. He had written, right, in his 1974 memoir, he writes, an artist can be extremely gifted yet remain unsuccessful if he or she records the wrong music or gets an image that confuses potential audiences. Now, what did we have with Whitney, which contributed to her issues, right? She was a gay Black woman who wanted to sing gospel. So that's not the market. He's just said it back there in 1974 before he met her, that wouldn't work. Anyone who's going to confuse an audience will not be successful regardless of their talent. And this is where Whitney's issues stem from. We've got this hidden and suppressed sexuality, along with this insincere image that she's being forced to portray. So that becomes then this heady mix of like conflict and trauma, which she self-medicated for then.
Correct.
And again, with the sexuality, it was condemnation and inacceptance from her family and the record label and management, Clive Davis. Now, Clive Davis is now saying, all these years later, that he never knew Whitney was gay. He didn't know of any relationship with Robin Crawford. Everybody knew in Team Whitney about Robin Crawford and their relationship and the dynamic of it. He's a liar, and that was just, I think, to not be accepting of any blame that he was, along with her family, the person telling her she could not be who she truly was.
Right.
And with that, you've got to accept some responsibility for the self-medication. But he's saying, he's on record saying he didn't know Whitney was gay. And then he goes on to talk, oh, but she dated Eddie Murphy. She was married to Bobby Brown, just talking about men.
Yeah.
Anybody else who knows her will tell you the truth.
And I'm curious what the deal was upon her death. Who benefited the most?
Pat Houston, her sister-in-law. Ultimately, in the end, because Bobby Christina was, what's the term I'm asking, was in the custody of Pat Houston. Pat Houston is married to Gary Houston, or Garland their name is, because I think that Gary is Whitney's half-brother, I believe. But she uses the Houston name. And so she's Whitney's sister-in-law. Again, was Team Whitney. Now, she's on record. She does interviews with Oprah and whatever, and she'll say that she was Whitney's manager. She was never Whitney's manager. She'll sometimes say that she was Whitney's assistant. Now, maybe we'll give her that, because although she didn't have the title of assistant, she was on the payroll. They all were. They were Klingons. They were just with her. She was surrounded by her family. They were all kept on retainers, even when they weren't doing anything, not touring or anything.
Right.
She provided. She's from that era of providing. So Pat Houston, when Whitney was going through, I think it was a staged intervention at one point. She was bullied into signing over custody of
Bobby Christina.
Oh, guardianship of Bobby Chris to Pat Houston, which she didn't want to do, but she was kind of backed into a corner. They were taking her forcibly to rehab, and Bobby Chris was a minor. So it was a case of, you sign that paperwork and out the door you go, you know? Right. There was something I wanted to say about that. I can't remember. So if you think, when you've got Whitney out the way, Bobby Chris is the sole
heir,
the sole heir to the Whitney Houston estate and all royalties. When you take Bobby Chris out of the picture, who then benefits? the Houston estate. Who is in control of the Houston estate? Pat Houston. Now, Pat Houston is out here still selling personal items of Whitneys, like passports, a first ever passport, really personal things that you would want to keep. Yeah. She's now bringing, have you seen the hologram tour, the Whitney hologram?
No.
Yeah, we've got that coming to Cardiff now next month, I think it is, or April.
Oh my God.
The world tour, the Whitney hologram. She's releasing unreleased tracks. And I think
so she's cashing in, she's making a lot of money.
Continuing. Continuing to, as much as she can squeeze from it. So people need to understand, the public need to understand, if you are a fan of, let's say, in this case, Whitney Houston, you might be excited to hear unreleased music, or to read a tell-all book, or to go and watch a movie based on their life story, whatever it might be, or go and see the tribute concerts, buy the merchandise. You've got to ask yourself who is benefiting. Yes. Who is receiving the money? Because it is important, and you might think, oh, it's not important because they're dead now, what does it matter? It matters because they were murdered for this purpose, so that the industry, the machine, can continue to benefit in a much more affluent, powerful way than they ever could if the artist was still alive.
They're worth more dead than alive.
100% they are. Even if you took any royalties, any shows, any merch and tours out of the equation, the life insurance policy in itself, $1 billion. I don't know if that was the case with Whitney. She would have been insured, but I don't know the facts.
She would have been insured by the record label.
By Arista, yeah. Clive Davis. Wow. What's interesting about Clive as well is I think he's about 85 now. Mm-hmm. And after all these years of suppressing who Whitney truly was, he's come out as bisexual now.
Oh, yeah. Well,
yeah. Finally. Finally.
We've got oh my gosh, we've only got like about 5 more minutes left in the show. I know. So I want to give you the opportunity to talk to the listeners and the viewers about how they can find you. If you've got a website that they can find out more about you, if they want to book a session with you, let our viewers and our listeners know how they can reach you, and also what you can help them with.
Okay, cool. So my web address is www.lougeorge.org. It's under construction at the moment because I'm changing up things with the way I work. So I'm just amending some stuff on that at the moment, but it should be back up by the time this goes out. Mm-hmm. Failing that, you can find me on Facebook at The Good Vibe Tribe. The Good Vibe Tribe? Okay. Yeah, and on Insta, Tribe The Good Vibe, but I'm usually on Facebook on my page there where we do our lives. What can I help you with? Healing sessions. Obviously, I like to read. I do psychic readings. I do channelings, but I like to assist in healing. So if you've got any traumas, blocks, anything preventing you from moving forward in life, anything that you want to drop, any baggage, that is what I like to do. But more so, my favorite thing to do is teach you how to be psychic, how to tap into your own intuition, how to connect with your family, your guides, with source. That is where we're at, and that's where the website's been updated at the moment. And that's what's the beautiful part, is that you're teaching people to use their natural innate gifts, but that's been squashed or repressed or washed over with all of this dogma and everything, and helping them tap into those skills, which would be very beneficial in every aspect in life. Yeah, just help them to remember how to do it. And that can be applied towards, you can use your psychic abilities in relationships, at work. If you're thinking about starting a new business, with your health, oh my goodness, so important. The power that's involved with that. So folks, if you want to find out more, you can go to lougeorge.org. That's lougeorge.org. And on Facebook and Instagram, say that again, it's The Good Vibe Tribe. The Good Vibe Tribe. Yeah. The Good Vibe Tribe. And you definitely want to follow her on the social media, because she pops up from time to time with
these, just like what she was getting with the wonderful Whitney Houston, and that urge to speak, and the same thing with Prince and so many others, and people who are not quote unquote celebrities and famous. We're talking the psychic detective work that Lou George has done on missing children, on these cases where children, they find them in a situation that's not so good. Lou George is amazing at tapping into that and revealing. I think if I had a police department, if I had a detective agency or a police department, I'd put you on payroll. I'd get you on payroll. I'd be like, awesome. So and stuff, this has happened. What are you picking up? And I know you would pick it up right away. I know you'd be able to see and hear things that regular detectives wouldn't be able to. So
yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. It's so lovely to see you. It's
wonderful to see you. And again, folks, if you want to get in touch with Lou George, and you really should, it's lougeorge.org. That's lougeorge.org, or on social media at The Good Vibe Tribe, which is such an awesome name. Thank you so much, darling.
Thank you, babe.
And I want to thank you, wonderful listeners and viewers, for tuning in. As always, I want to remind you to think outside of that box. If you want more information about the show, you can go to outoftheboxwithchristine.com. Or if you want more information about me, just go to christineblasdale.com. Okay, until next time, think outside of that box, be outside of that box, and contact Lou George. All right. Bye for now. Bye.